How you doing, everybody? Hello. Welcome to the Postgame show. Oh, my goodness. What a game today. There was a lot of offense here today. It kind of reminded me of Game 1, 2004 World Series. Red Sox, Cardinals, got all that offense. It kind of, I don't know why, it just brought me back those memories a little bit here today. Man, a lot of good vibes today. People were ecstatic going to the ballpark today. You know, Lou Merlone, Dave O'Brien, they were talking about it on the broadcast. Just a different feel in the ballpark today for the home opener. Lots of good feelings around Fenway Park right now. I mean, of course, you know, the Red Sox had a good offseason. The team is looking great, coming off a great win in Baltimore, and they kept the momentum going here today, setting a season high in runs scored yesterday, and then bumping that up today, bumping that up to 13. Man, oh man, lots of offense there today. You know, on the Cardinals side too, they made a little bit of a fight there in the end. It got a little interesting. Had to bring in Chapman there to close it out, but in the end, the Red Sox lineup, like I said yesterday, they did. They showed you exactly what they can do. They got a lot of bats. There's a lot of length in this lineup. Can you imagine this lineup? You know, when everyone is on. I mean, it looked like that today, but this is a lineup that can do stuff like that pretty much all year. But you gotta love it, man. Trevor Story getting, just keeping it up from what he was doing in Baltimore. Willie Abreu just continuing his hot start. You know, lots of bats for today. We'll go over that. Willie Abreu, it's pretty crazy. You know, coming into the year, man. You know, you're obviously he had the great start in Texas, and then, you know, you just wonder, okay, you know, this is just a few games, but he is just keeping it going. He doesn't even have to be in Texas to keep hitting the way he's hitting, man. You got to love it, especially after the offseason that he had, getting sick, having twins as well. He's been a busy man. Good to see Willie Abreu keeping it going here in the home opener. And good for Trevor Story, you know, getting off on the right foot at home, right? You know, we've talked about this for a while now. It's been just a rather interesting few years for Trevor Story. Hasn't really been able to get himself going as a Red Sox, and good start for him here today. The Fenway faithful loving Trevor Story today. Walker Buehler, though, you know, still trying to figure things out. That's kind of the sense that I'm getting with him. It's like he's sort of, you know, trying to figure out a game plan, what works for him, what doesn't work for him. He took a bit of an interesting approach to today's game. Right? He went a little different than last time, kind of pretty much the opposite what I thought he was going to do. We'll dive into that. And also, great pre-game ceremony today honoring the 1975 Red Sox World Series team. Unfortunately, they lost that World Series to the Reds in 7 games. You know, an all-timer World Series. You know, I'm not going to sit here and act like I was, you know, alive and watching that World Series, but you go back to that. You had the Carlton Fisk, you know, waving the ball fair. I can't even imagine what it was like to be alive as a Red Sox fan during that time. But, you know, you go back to that Red Sox team, man, you know, you just had so many guys, you know, Hall of Famers on that team. Fisk, Yastrzemski, Rice, you know, Dwight Evans, I think arguably should be a Hall of Famer. You know, Fred Lynn, the late Luis Tiant, his family there helping honor him here today. Just a nice ceremony before the game, man. You know, I'm glad the Red Sox, they honor those teams. You know, yes, sure. Even though they lost that World Series, that was a pretty rich in talent team, man. They were very close to winning it all that year. But everybody, let's get on to it. We got a lot to cover here, especially on the offensive side of things. But before we get into it, here's today's sponsor, Homage.
FT fam, legends never die. That is the motto for Homage. Go to homage.com and get yourself maybe one of these tees. This was one of my favorites from spring training. You got a little Grapefruit League action. Nice, iconic looking logo. And behind me on the back is all the teams that are listed for the Grapefruit League. You've got, of course, if you're more of an Arizona person, you've got the t-shirt for that too. But Kratz, I just love the way that they give you the highest quality material and then a little vintage action if you're looking for it.
I love the vintage. I've been a baseball fan my whole life, and teams change their logos. If you're looking for a logo that your team used to have, Homage is your place to go. Go cop one of the old logos from the major league teams that maybe they don't use anymore.
Yeah, homage.com/foul territory. Go to the website and then use the code foul territory, the name of our show, for 20% off if you're a first-time purchaser on the website. Go check it out, FT fam.
Yeah, go check out Homage, man. I've talked about this the last couple of episodes. Always love me something vintage. The retro designs, they always end up being my favorite. As time goes on, what's the old saying? The more things change, the more they stay the same. You just always find that little bit of a soft spot for the retro designs. Go check it out. They got a lot of good stuff over there. Get a good deal, 20% off. Use the code FOUL territory. But here we go. Let's get to the pitching side of things. And like I said with Walker Buehler here, kind of a whatever day. Once again, not a great start in Texas. Showed a couple of good things along the way. But once again here, 4 innings, 5 earned, 4 strikeouts on the day. Taking a look at the approach, this is kind of what surprised me the most. We were talking about this after his last start where I thought he was using too many fastballs. That was not a good pitch for him last year. Again, he was coming back from Tommy John. It just was not an effective pitch for him. He was still trying to get a feel for his other pitches after coming back with the Dodgers last year. So, the fastball wasn't at its best. So when he didn't have his full repertoire of pitches going, it was just not really an effective pitch for him overall. But instead of backing away from it more here today, which was one of the, when you go back to the offseason when they signed Walker Buehler, you took a look at how that fastball was playing for him last year, and it wasn't all that great. So it kind of lined up with, what you were thinking with what Andrew Bailey and the Red Sox have been doing with some of these guys is getting away from the 4-seam fastball. But instead, he led with it today. 34% of the time, he threw 28 fastballs, 4-seam fastballs on the day. And, just getting hit pretty hard today. Gave up a home run on a 4-seamer to Brendan Donovan. A slider also got hit today from Herrera. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Nootbaar got a piece of a knuckle curve today. Again, it just feels like he's still trying to figure things out. The spin was up on all of his pitches today. So there was a bit more crispness, is that the right word, on his pitches today. But, I don't know, it just felt like the game plan just wasn't fully there, not throwing the right pitches and the right counts. For me personally, I just think, let's up that cutter a little bit more. Let's get that knuckle curve going a little bit more. Even that sweeper, if you take a look at the sweeper here today, that was a pretty effective pitch for him overall. The highest on the exit velocity was 75 miles per hour for him. Maybe go that Tanner Houck approach where you lead with the sweeper. You work in those fastballs a little bit. Again, it just feels like Buehler is still trying to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. And if there's ever a time to do that, it's now at the beginning of the year. So it feels like Buehler, Andrew Bailey, this is going to be an interesting combination to watch, to see how they go about their game plans from start to start. I'm very interested in that. We'll see what ends up happening, for the next outing. If you go back once again to his outing against the Rangers, he led with the sinker. So he upped the 4-seam fastball usage quite a bit here today. He was going kind of a good balance of a sinker and a cutter. Honestly, a good balance between the 4 pitches here. So kind of interesting that he led with the fastball today, especially after that pitch was not very good for him last year. So we'll have to wait and see what he ends up doing next time. But, well, whatever it is, the last couple of starts here hasn't really been working all that much. So I'm going to imagine we're going to see an even bigger difference when it comes to the next start. So let's pay attention to that. Now, when it came to the bullpen, it got a little messy there at the end when Cooper Criswell came in. But, give it up for Greg Weissert, Kelly, especially Bernardino, man. Bernardino striking out the side. Got to love that. Greg Weissert had a pretty clean inning minus the Tristan Casas error that we'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. What the heck happened on that one? Zach Kelly gave up a run, but minus that last inning there, Chapman having to come in and clean it up. Bullpen, for the most part, looked pretty good, minus Cooper Criswell. So, but we'll pay attention to Walker Buehler for the next start. Here we go. Let's get to the offense here. This was the talk of the town here, and I don't know why my buttons are not working. Why are my buttons not working? Here we go. Let's do it this way. Lots of offense here today. Lots of offense. For me, again, I'm still working on the player of the game screen for now. I'm just going to put the picture of the player in the bottom corner here. I'm going to go Trevor Story. To me, he got the offense going here today. Trevor Story, man, I was saying this during spring training. Don't sleep on the guy. Again, I know the health has been an issue. He's had a lot of problems staying on the field, but when he's healthy and if things are right and he's in his routine and he's playing every day, this is a guy that can definitely be productive for you. At the bare minimum, he's going to give you good defense at shortstop. And if you can just get even something out of the bat, that to me is a huge win. Trevor Story, I think coming into the year was being slept on, but I understood it because you just don't know what he's going to give you. He's a big injury risk. But so far, looking very good here. Had the home run in Baltimore and then kept it going here today. Will Abreu, man, like I said, this guy's off to a great start. I love that for him. Just with everything he's been going through off the field as well. Great day for him. Bregman, pretty solid day for the most part. Did make an error there at the end of the game, on a double play attempt, but it is what it is. Tristan Casas. Casas starting to look a little more comfortable up there. I've been talking about this the last couple of games where you look at kind of how his approach has been at the plate. It felt a little passive in Texas. It felt like he was maybe taking a few too many pitches, and the umpire, he was getting squeezed a little bit by some of those calls by the ump. And you're thinking, okay, Casas, you know what? Best way to approach this is just attack a little bit more. And he's starting to do that a little bit. You're noticing it. And a good day for him, 2 for 5. And Carlos Narvaez, back-to-back starts. Back-to-back starts here for Carlos Narvaez. I'm telling you, there's a different feeling when he's in that lineup. There's something different with him back there, the way he's framing pitches, the way he's working back there, and what he's doing with the bat. He's just giving you a little bit more at this point. Pretty solid day for him overall. I've been talking about this the last couple of games. Carlos Narvaez, man, I'm not going to be surprised if you start seeing a few more starts along the way. I would imagine Wong is going to get the start tomorrow since Narvaez has started back-to-back games. So we'll see what ends up happening tomorrow. I think that's going to be interesting to pay attention to, but I don't think they're going to give up on Wong just yet. It's still way too early, but we could be trending in that direction. But let's recap this offense here. A lot of offense to talk about here. Duran got a start in the first inning with a base hit, and I talked about that with Duran yesterday. He's still, making good contact at the plate, still working the at-bats pretty well. It just feels like there's times where he's not getting the result that he's looking for. Getting a little unlucky in some of his at-bats. And getting it started there with a base hit today. Not surprised to see him just producing. Raffy with the walk there in the first inning after him. Bregman with the double. Past the near third baseman for the Red Sox. Remember, Arenado was pretty much coming to Boston. I mean, all the signs were there. It was pretty much a done deal. And luckily, they got Alex Bregman. So what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of almost like storytelling in a way that Bregman shoots the double past Arenado at third base. That made it 2-0. Casas had to pop out after that, and then Trevor Story getting back to him. Second home run of the season, taking advantage of another hanging breaking ball. That made it 4-0, and then Wilyer going back-to-back, making it 5-0. The story of those home runs, though, was the new awesome home run celebration. They got the Wally helmet now. That is amazing. I absolutely love it. Thank the heavens for giving us a gift like that. Man, oh man. Absolutely love that. I love the home run celebrations. I always loved the cart from a few years ago. That was pretty fun. This one's really good, though. I remember you had the dumbbells. That was cool. But, yeah, this one it definitely is up there, I think, for most people. Getting to the third inning, right? Your Red Sox did have a 5-0 lead. But the Cardinals, again, it sort of reminded me of that game one from 2004, right? The Red Sox, they were piling up that offense, but the Cardinals just wouldn't go away. I don't know why. It just reminded me of that. It gave me those memories a little bit. But the Cardinals, that's when they tried to start chipping away. They made it 5-1 there in the top of the third. Victor Scott had the walk. Mason Wynn with the base hit. Newt Barr with the RBI to drive him in. But the Red Sox, like they've been showing here for the last few games, keeping the pressure on. Going back to Baltimore, right? A good lineup there in Baltimore. Say we will about St. Louis, but there are some pretty decent bats in that lineup. The Orioles, I think we can all agree, are definitely going to have the better lineup. But, this is a Cardinals team where, they can kind of be pesky, right? And they can do some things in that lineup. And for the Red Sox, I'm glad they kept the foot on the gas, right? Adding on another run there in the bottom half. Narvaez getting back to him, had the RBI base hit. Like I said, just a different energy with him, man. I don't know what it is. It's just like a feeling kind of a thing. And obviously results kind of a thing as well so far. Getting to the fourth inning, Cardinals, they still, even though, you're right, Narvaez had the RBI, the Cardinals still, trying to get back into it, trying to claw back into it. Arenado had the double, Burleson had the base hit, and then Ivan Herrera, give this guy some credit, man. This guy, a pretty decent slider, low and away. It was a slider that didn't fully slide. It didn't fully get that break that Buehler was wanting. It hung a little too over the plate. I didn't think it was a bad pitch, though. But Herrera, this is a guy that has a ton of strength, and he used that wind a little bit to help him out, and he got himself a 3-run jack. Ivan Herrera, man, I think that's going to be a guy that I think he ends up being a really good player as we move forward. That was another guy that popped up in the rumor mill for the Red Sox this offseason at one point. So, to be honest, if that was true, I'm not surprised because, Ivan Herrera, that guy's going to be really good. But that made it 6-4 at one point. But then after that, Brendan Donovan, he added on another home run. Brendan Donovan had a very good day for the Cardinals today. I'm a big fan of Brendan Donovan. That's just one of those gritty kind of players. He has a good bat, plays multiple positions. He's a good guy to have on your team. I'm kind of jealous that the Cardinals have someone like him. The Red Sox, they got their guys too, but I just like me some Brendan Donovan. Could he be a trade candidate this year? If the Cardinals end up falling out of it, could that be a guy that ends up getting moved? That's a guy I've been wondering could have gotten moved in the last couple of off seasons. So, but yeah, he added that on in the top of the fifth. In the bottom of the fifth, once again, the Red Sox staying relentless. Tristan Casas with a double. Abreu coming up big again. RBI base hit, made it 7-5. You got a little interesting here with Christian Campbell had the blooper to right. Jordan Walker made the catch, but it looked like, at least not to me, but when it came to at least Jordan Walker, he was saying there was some fan interference there when he made the catch. I'm thinking I don't know. It didn't really look like it. It looked like he got a little mixed up with a couple of people in the crowd at first glance, but then you look at the replay, felt like the fan did a pretty good job at just trying to stay out of the way, and I didn't really see an issue there. It wasn't like his arm got caught up with Walker or anything like that. I don't know what was going on, but in the end, got overturned. So that made it 8-5, right? Runs scored on that one. Into the sixth inning, Trevor Story, a great play in the sixth inning. Tristan Casas, I don't know what happened here, but on the catch, he just dropped it. Trevor Story, man, again, this is a guy, at the very least, he's going to give you great defense, and he showed you that. Very nice play. But then Casas, I don't know what it was. He sort of, with his glove, he sort of held it up straight instead of just doing, just holding out the glove in just a natural position. He almost had it in this awkward sort of a position, and it just came out of his glove. So even Lou Merloni mentioned something like that. Very interesting. Just looked very awkward. I don't know what happened. Maybe, I don't know. Sometimes your mind just plays tricks on you and you do different things. But luckily they got the strikeout to Victor Scott after that, so the Cardinals weren't able to get anything going. In the bottom half, you got a couple of hits from Raffy. Raffy did a couple of things here today, and Bregman couldn't capitalize, though. Top of the seventh, Duran. Hey, making a nice defensive play off of Mason Wynn. Looked like maybe Mason Wynn could have had something, but Duran kind of gave me a little bit of Andrew Benintendi vibes back from, I believe, 2018, where he made that jumping catch where he looked like Air Jordan. All right, so Jaron Duran had a bit of a play like that. Nootbaar, though, had the double, and then once again, Brendan Donovan, the thorn in the side of the Red Sox today. Another RBI base hit, made it 8-6. But this is where the Red Sox, they really started to pile on. This was the big insurance inning for the Red Sox. Abreu with his third hit of the game. Christian Campbell, a broken bat blooper to center. Narvaez working a walk. Once again, I love me some Carlos Narvaez. Cedame Rafaela still today, still seeing a little too over-aggressive, right? It's, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting, especially when, I think they're going to let Roman have as much time as possible down in AAA. But, Seti, he brings a lot of good things to the table, right? You're obviously the glove out in center field, the speed as well. But it's the over-aggressiveness, but then he slapped one right, grounder over to shortstop, looked like it was going to be a double play. But Donovan, on the turnover, had the bad throw to first base, and with Seti, with the speed, he was able to beat that out. Run scored, made it 9-6. Duran with an RBI base hit, 10-6. Raffy, RBI base hit up the middle, 11-6. Hey, I love the crowd today, showing a lot of support for Raffy. At one point during the game, you're hearing, "Let's go, Raffy." I love that. Love that, man. I love the crowd support for Raffy. I was talking about that yesterday. Just a good crowd reaction. I think for most, at least from what I heard, it seemed like a pretty good crowd reaction today. Eighth inning, second double of the day for Tristan Casas. I think he is now, I think it's safe to say that he's figured it out. He has figured it out. Carlos Narvaez, sorry, I keep saying, I don't know, man. At some point, I'm starting to think he's going to be the starting catcher. Narvaez with an RBI double that made it 13-6. And like I said at the beginning of the show, got a little messy there at the end. Cooper Criswell came in. Wynn, Nootbaar, they got on. Contreras, Donovan each had RBI base hits. That made it 13-8. Couple runners got on. Arenado, ground ball to third base. Bregman made a nice play, made a nice stab, but just an errant throw over to second base. That got him back into the outfield. And runner scored, made it 13-9. And Chapman came in. He walked Luke and Baker, but Bregman got some redemption, was able to start the double play, and that ended the game. But overall, for the Red Sox here today, these are the games that, you're not going to get the best pitching all the time, right? You're not going to have Garrett Crochet on the mound every single time, but it's nice to see that this offense can just churn out these kind of runs, man. And this is what is very good about this lineup is you have productive bats 1 through 9. There's so much more length in this lineup. I remember last year, the bottom of the lineup, especially when Tristan Casas went down, when you lost that bat, that really put a lot of strain on the lineup. But you feel comfortable even at the bottom of the order here. I don't know, man. There's this lineup. I feel safe with this lineup, if that makes sense. I feel like I don't got to worry really all that much. I know everyone in this lineup is going to give you at least a productive at-bat for the most part. I think you could maybe say, well, Seti, what about him? I think maybe at this point, you could look at him as a guy that could possibly be the odd man out. With Roman, I think that could be very interesting. What you could do if Seti ends up going into more of a utility role or whatever it may be, you put Roman out in left, you put Duran out in center. Honestly, I could see both of those guys kind of sharing, going back and forth. I know Duran is pretty comfortable out in left field, so I could see Roman even playing some center field as well. And I just want to remind people that Roman has played center field down in the minor leagues. He just played center field this year at the beginning of the year in AAA, so he can handle it. Whatever it is, I do wonder if Seti ends up being that odd man out. So we'll see. But right now, I mean, hey, it's kind of, I'm really nitpicking there. 13 runs, man. Not too shabby, if you ask me. But moving on here, let's take a look at the game for tomorrow. And before I do move on here, just want to see what you guys are saying in the chat. Phil, good win, but Bueller pitching like trash. Yeah, he's got to start figuring something out. Again, I think he's still really just trying to find that right game plan, trying to find the right feel for things, right? Brent Bell, starting rotation, looking suspect after Crochet. We need someone to step up and lock in as a legit number 2. It's funny, Brent, that you say that. I was kind of thinking about that a little bit because Houck, Bueller, they've been a little bumpy. I do wonder let's say, the Red Sox are in a great spot at the deadline. Let's just say they're in the lead for the division, or they have a good grasp on a wild card spot. And if Bueller and Houck are still a little up and down at that point, do you go out there and make a play for a guy, right? You got to wait and see what ends up happening with a lot of these teams. You got to see what the standings are looking like in, another couple of months, right? Even a month is too soon. You saw last year, the Astros, the Mets, they got off to bad starts, but then, both teams ended up making it to the postseason, right? So you got to wait a couple of months here to see kind of which teams are looking like they're going to be sellers. For example, like if the Padres, I know they're off to a very hot start, but let's say they crash back down to earth here, and over the next month or two, could someone like Dylan Cease be a possibility, right? Or even someone like Michael King, whatever it may be. Sandy is going to be very expensive. I know that for a fact because he's got control, has the options. I'm kind of there with you a little bit, but again, it's still way too early to be thinking about that. Way too early. Caden Lickford, Robbie, the Red Sox play on ESPN on Sunday. Gotta love that. Is this the last year for ESPN with Major League Baseball? Thank goodness. But yeah, that'll be fun. Swahara, not going to lie, had flashbacks after the 3-error ninth. Got to tighten it up, but I got faith in this team. That's one thing, this team, they're much better defensively. So it's kind of like, I don't know what it was. Was it just something mentally where they were losing a bit of a grip at the end? Not quite sure. Anyway, yeah, it was a little bit of too messy of a game. I think they're going to clean that up. Bregman, is probably kicking himself a little bit on that play that he made where he threw the ball into the outfield. So moving on, let's go to the matchup for tomorrow. We got Mr. Fitz. This is a family-friendly show. I'm not going to say the nickname on the family-friendly show, but we got Palante, we got Fitz. Sorry, I always forget how to pronounce. Is it Piante? Is it Palante? I always forget. But you got Fitz going. He looked all right in his first start against the Rangers. He was okay. He went 6 innings, gave up a couple of runs there, gave up 3. It was a quality start. So very excited to see what Fitz can do in game 2 here of this series. If you're taking a look at the matchups, so not a whole lot of experience. I'm going to say Palante. I'm sorry, but it just that sounds easier to say. Casas, he's got a hit against him, but again, it's only 1 at bat. Devers, he's got a few at bats against him. He's had success. He's 1 for 3 against him. You got Ref Snyder's had a few at bats, but I don't know if that's going to happen against the righty. Story has a home run. Could we see back-to-back home runs with Trevor Story for tomorrow? We'll see. But, again, not a whole lot of experience, and luckily for Fitz, well, this is going to happen a lot this year, but no experience against Mr. Richard Fitz. So he's going to have that advantage, at least in the early going of the year. But the Red Sox, hey, back to 500, 4-4. Got some momentum going here. Really love what's going on with the Red Sox here in the last couple of games. Want to see that pitching tighten up a little bit. Defense, here and there. Let's tighten that up a little bit. But overall, you love to see what the bats can do. They showed you the potential of this lineup today. Absolute outburst when it comes to the lineup. But everybody, I'm out of here. If you come on the way out, hit the like button for me. We did set a goal for 50 likes. We're at 30, or fell a little short. If you can hit the like button for us on the way out on YouTube here, I would greatly appreciate that. If you are new, think about subscribing down below. If you are with us in podcast format, leave us a 5-star review. That always helps us out. But everybody, go enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be back here tomorrow. And actually, just a quick reminder, the game tomorrow is at 4:10 Eastern time. So we're probably looking at around 7 o'clock tomorrow night, 7:30 for the post-game show. So make sure your notifications are turned on. That way you know I go live every single time. But everybody, I'm out of here. Go enjoy the rest of your Friday night, and I'll talk to you next time.